It's time again for the Insiders with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.
Hi, I'm Chuck Chvala, former Senate Majority Leader.
And I'm Scott Jensen, former Assembly Speaker.
And we're the Insiders. So, Scott, there's a big push on the part of the tribes in Wisconsin to deal with and get medical marijuana as an opportunity for them and for the state. What's your take on that? And what do you think are the chances of success in the next session?
Well, as you know, Wisconsin's one of like a dozen states that doesn't allow medical marijuana to be sold. And it's a state where the Assembly Republicans are open on the subject and the Senate Republicans are not. And so it has not advanced at this point. The tribes getting together to make a push. I mean, certainly they have the resources if they want to make this a big issue and to rally the public to their side. Most of the public favors medical marijuana, so that shouldn't be too difficult of a task for them. I just don't think you're going to move the state Senate unless the margins get really close, right? I mean, Wisconsin, right now, the state Senate has a Republican supermajority. If after this election they come out and they're hanging on by 1 or 2 seats, they might rethink their position on a couple issues where they're out of step with the public. The same is true of the state assembly where, they've made an effort, but they didn't, get very far with it. So I think this issue is not going to happen until the margins are much closer in both houses or until the Democrats grab one of the chambers.
This is really a good example of where the Republican gerrymander has kept Wisconsin out of touch with the rest of the country. It is this issue and the unwillingness to accept Medicaid expansion in Wisconsin, which has cost Wisconsin not just more healthcare coverage for people, but billions of dollars, literally billions with a B. That's how bad it is. But on the marijuana piece, it's not just a majority on medical marijuana. Medical marijuana is supported by more than 80% of the people out there. Even just endorsing, recreational marijuana, it's more than 60% in Wisconsin. And Wisconsin is not by any means a liberal bastion when it comes to this issue. So the reality is that we are really out of touch with the country. Wisconsin people are going to Illinois, Michigan, and to Minnesota, which have every part, and Canada. Every one of our neighbors except Iowa has marijuana legalized for all purposes. So it's really a disappointing thing. And what's disappointing to me is, we talk about these people who, are struggling with their money, whatever. There can be an enormous amount of relief. I've talked to enough veterans with PTSD who have gotten enormous relief from marijuana that for that reason alone, I was not on this when I was in the legislature, but I have really come around to realize that this is something that could be helpful to a lot of people. And I think that given what we have with alcohol, the problems with alcohol are far in excess of what we would have with marijuana or have. And by the way, already our people are going over the border to get the legalized marijuana. And so we're losing tax revenue. We're not serving our veterans. We're not serving a lot of people. It's a deeply disappointing. I don't disagree with Scott's analysis, and it's exactly why the Republican gerrymander has been devastating for our state. Whether it's billions of dollars from Medicaid, or helping veterans, or anybody else who has some PTSD or a lot of other issues, we're just not taking care of folks. And it's a sad situation, but it is the reality. Do I think that the tribes will be able to move this? No, I think Scott is right. I think that as long as Republicans maintain huge majorities, and huge majorities in the Senate means anytime you got, I would say, 19 or more, it's a very comfortable majority to deal with. And the assembly numbers maybe a little bit more. But it's a deeply disturbing thing. It's unfortunate.
Here's why the margin actually makes some difference. There is large public support for medical marijuana. But if you ask people how important that issue is to them, it's way down the list. So voters aren't making their decision based upon where you are in medical marijuana. But if the margins got closer and closer, you can't continue to not listen to where the public is on issues. And both parties have moments where they kind of have to rethink where they've been on something because they're just out of step with where the public is. But again, I don't think that's going to happen until the margins are closer in both houses.
I think Scott's exactly right. And that's why gerrymanders that create extreme majorities are not good generally for governance in our government. That's where we're at, but Scott's right. We'll see you next time, folks.
You've been listening to The Insiders with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.